The big glass doors of the bank opened slowly. A quiet girl stepped inside. She looked about 17 or 18. Her clothes were old but clean. Her shoes were worn out. In her hand, she held a small plastic bag, full of coins. It was lunchtime. The bank was full. People in suits, mothers with kids, old men with walking sticks, all waiting in line. She stood quietly at the back. No one noticed her at first, but when the coins in the plastic bag made a jingling sound, some heads turned. A man in a black coat looked at her and chuckled. She must be lost. After waiting for 20 minutes, it was finally her turn. She walked slowly to the counter. The teller, a young woman with bright red lipstick and polished nails, looked up. She forced a fake smile. "Yes," the teller said, not hiding her boredom. The girl placed the plastic bag on the counter. Coins, mostly ones and twos, rolled to the sides. "I want to deposit this," she said softly. The teller stared at the bag, then at the girl, then back at the bag. "This?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. The girl nodded. The teller chuckled loudly, looking around. Her colleague next to her leaned over to see. He also smiled. "Seriously," the teller said loudly. "You waited in line for this." A few people in the bank turned to look. Some smiled. Others shook their heads. But the girl didn't speak. Her face stayed calm. Her hands were shaking a little, but she stood tall. The teller poked the bag with her pen. "There's not even 50 rupees here," she said. The girl didn't move. "Do you have an account with us?" the teller asked, almost mockingly. "No," the girl said quietly. "But my father did." The teller rolled her eyes. "And what does that have to do with anything?" The girl opened her small bag and took out a folded piece of paper. It was old and yellow at the edges. She placed it on the counter next to the coins. "Is your manager here?" she asked. The teller paused. "Why?" "My father asked me to give this to him," the girl said. Something in her voice made the teller stop laughing. She looked at the paper, then back at the girl. "What's your name?" the teller asked, suddenly serious. "Anaya," the girl said. The teller picked up the piece of paper and looked at it. Her eyes narrowed. She stood up and walked toward the back office without a word. The girl waited. The other staff whispered among themselves. One of them said, "Is this a prank?" Anaya stayed quiet. She looked at the coins. Some had fallen near the edge of the counter. She gently pushed them back in place. A few minutes later, the teller returned. Her face was different now. No smile. No laughter. "Come with me," she said. The whole bank watched as the girl followed the teller to the manager's office. Inside the glass room, the bank manager sat behind a large wooden desk. He looked up and nodded at Anaya. "You're Mr. Raman's daughter?" he asked. Anaya nodded. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. "I'm sorry to hear about your father," the manager said quietly. "He was a good man." Anaya opened her bag again and took out a second paper, an envelope this time. "My father said to give this to you," she said. "He told me to come here after he passed." The manager took the envelope and opened it. Inside was a letter, handwritten. He began reading. Slowly, his face changed. His eyes widened. He leaned back in his chair and read again. Outside the office, the staff tried to peek in. The teller looked nervous now. After a long silence, the manager looked up at Anaya. "Why didn't you say this earlier?" he asked softly. "I wanted to do what my father told me," she said. "He said the bank would understand." The manager stood up. "I think everyone here is about to understand a lot more than they thought." He turned toward the glass door. "Call everyone," he told the staff outside. "There's something they need to hear." The room was silent. Anaya sat quietly in the manager's office. The envelope her father gave her now lay open on the table. The manager, Mr. Ramesh, stood near the glass window, holding the letter. His fingers trembled slightly as he read it again. trying to believe what was written. Outside the office, the curious whispers grew louder. The same staff who had laughed just minutes ago now stared through the glass, wondering what was going on. Finally, Mr. Ramesh opened the office door. "Everyone, come here for a moment," he said firmly. The staff looked confused. The teller with red lipstick looked nervous, but she stood up. Others followed. Even the security guard came closer. Mr. Ramesh cleared his throat. "I want all of you to meet someone," he said. "This is Anaya. She is the daughter of Mr. Farooq Rahman." At that name, one of the older employees, Mr. Arjun, the bank's oldest cashier, froze. His face changed. "Rahman," he whispered. "You mean the janitor?" Mr. Ramesh nodded slowly. "Yes, the same Mr. Rahman who worked here for almost 10 years. The same man most people ignored. The man we never truly saw." There was an awkward silence. Some of the newer staff didn't recognize the name, but those who had worked there for years remembered. Mr. Rahman, quiet, humble, always polite, always cleaning, always in the background. He never argued, never asked for attention, and never missed a day of work. "I remember him," the red lipstick teller whispered, now looking down. Mr. Ramesh turned to Anaya and gently asked, "May I read your father's letter aloud?" Anaya nodded. He held up the old paper and began reading. "To the manager of the bank. If you're reading this, it means I am no longer alive. I never got a chance to speak my truth while I worked here. I was just a janitor to most, a cleaner, a nobody. But I watched. I learned. I listened. I respected every rupee, every coin. I saw how people treat others based on money. That's why I wanted to teach my daughter differently. I saved everything I could. I made small investments. I even bought shares of this bank when nobody believed I could. My life was quiet, but not empty. I leave everything to my daughter, Anaya. She will come to you one day. Please treat her with the dignity I was never given. Farooq Rahman." As Mr. Ramesh finished reading, the room stayed silent. Not a whisper, not a word. The red lipstick teller looked like she might cry. The others stared at Anaya, who sat calmly, her fingers lightly touching the edge of her coin bag. You mean he had investments?" one staff member asked slowly. Mr. Ramesh nodded. "Yes, according to this letter, and to our internal records, Mr. Rahman was smarter than anyone gave him credit for." He turned to his computer and typed something quickly. After a few moments, he found what he was looking for. "Mr. Rahman opened a secret account here in 2009, he said. He didn't use his full name, just FR and a number. He deposited small amounts every month. Slowly, quietly. No one noticed. What's in the account now?" someone asked. Mr. Ramesh looked at the screen. His eyes widened. I need to double-check," he whispered. He clicked through more pages, checking transaction logs, share values, interest growth. Finally, he leaned back in his chair and said in a quiet voice, "There's over 1.8 million rupees in that account. And it's all in Anaya's name now." Gasps filled the room. The teller stepped back, her hand over her mouth. "She came in with coins," whispered another staff member. "And now, she owns more of this bank than any of us," Mr. Arjun said, shaking his head in disbelief. Anaya looked down at her coins and then up at everyone. "I didn't come here to make anyone feel bad," she said softly. "My father just told me one thing. Value is not in what you hold. It's in how you see it. That's why I brought the coins first." He said, "Start small. Let them laugh if they want to. But don't let them forget your name." No one laughed now. The room was filled with guilt, surprise, and deep respect. Mr. Ramesh stood and walked around his desk. "Miss Anaya," he said gently, "we owe your father more than we ever gave. And we owe you an apology. From all of us." One by one, the staff lowered their heads. Some apologized. Some wiped away quiet tears. Anaya smiled, just a little. Her eyes were still wet, but this time with pride. "I just wanted to do what my father asked," she said. Mr. Ramesh nodded. "You did, and much more." The staff couldn't stop talking. Even after Anaya left the office for a moment to sit in the waiting area, the bank workers whispered to one another, their faces filled with shock. "He was a janitor, right?" one asked quietly. "Yes," said Mr. Arjun, the senior cashier, "but not like others." Everyone turned toward him. His voice was calm, thoughtful. "I remember him very well," Mr. Arjun continued. "He joined this bank when I was still a young man. He used to mop these same floors, clean these same windows, but there was something different about him. He never complained, and he always carried a small notebook." "A notebook?" the red lipstick teller asked. Mr. Arjun nodded. "Yes, he used to sit quietly during his lunch break in the corner. He'd write numbers, calculations, and small notes. I once asked him what it was." "What did he say?" the security guard asked, now standing near the glass door. Mr. Arjun smiled a little. He said, "Just counting dreams." I thought it was poetry. I didn't realize he was serious. Back in the waiting area, Anaya quietly listened. She didn't say anything, but her fingers gripped the edge of the chair tightly. She remembered that notebook. Her father had filled pages with handwritten tables, dates, plans, and quotes. Some days, he'd sit with her and explain how every rupee could grow if treated with respect. But outside their home, no one cared. People looked at her father and saw nothing but a poor man in uniform, a janitor, a cleaner, a nobody. She remembered one night clearly. She was 10. It was raining hard, and the roof leaked. She cried and asked her father why they were always poor. He didn't get angry. He just smiled and said, "We're not poor. We're preparing. One day the world will see." Anaya smiled faintly now. Inside the office, Mr. Ramesh opened the system again, looking deeper into the records. "This is incredible," he said. He never withdrew anything. All the interest, all the dividends from the shares he bought. He just kept saving. Not once did he touch the money. "Why?" someone asked. Why wouldn't he use it, even when he clearly needed it? Anaya finally stood up and walked back into the office. Her voice was steady. He said if he used that money while people still looked down on him, it would lose its meaning. He wanted to leave it for something better. "Something better," Mr. Ramesh repeated. Anaya nodded. "Me?" The teller looked at her and finally spoke. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. I shouldn't have laughed." Anaya looked at her. Her voice was soft, but powerful. "You laughed because of coins, but those coins were a test. My father wanted to see how people react to small things, because people who don't respect small things usually can't handle big ones either." The words hit hard. The staff looked away, ashamed. Mr. Ramesh leaned forward. "Do you know why your father left this money with us?" he asked. "Why not a different bank?" Anaya took a deep breath. Because this was the place where he was hurt the most, and where he hoped change could happen. Mr. Arjun's eyes filled with tears. "I should have done more," he said. "I saw how others treated him. He was always so polite, so quiet, but I never stood up for him." Anaya smiled. "My father never wanted pity. He wanted understanding. That's all." Mr. Ramesh looked around at his staff. "This is more than a bank story now. This is a lesson. About humility. About strength. About how we treat people when we think they have nothing to give us." He turned to Anaya. "I want to offer you something. A full scholarship from the bank's education fund. Your father already gave us more than we deserved. Let us do something in return." Anaya was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "Thank you," she said. "But can I ask for one more thing?" "Of course," Mr. Ramesh replied. She pointed toward a wall where photos of the bank's top employees were hung. I want my father's photo there. Maybe not as a manager, but as a reminder. Mr. Ramesh smiled. Done. A week later, the photo went up. Not in the back, not in a hidden corner, but right at the entrance. A black and white picture of Mr. Farooq Rahman, smiling softly in his janitor's uniform. Below it, a small plaque read, "He cleaned the floors, but he taught us to look up." Customers stopped to read it. Some asked questions, and every employee, new or old, now knew the name Mr. Rahman. He was not just a janitor. Years before Anaya stepped into that bank with a bag full of coins, her father, Farooq Rahman, had his own quiet battle with the world. Back then, he was just a janitor. Every day, he arrived before sunrise, carrying his mop and bucket. He cleaned the marble floors, polished the counters, and emptied trash cans without complaint. No one asked him about his life. No one even called him by name. To most people, he was just Bhaiya or cleaner. But Farooq had secrets. Not dark secrets, dreams. Late at night, after long shifts, he sat in a small rented room with his daughter asleep beside him. While the world rested, Farooq studied. He read old newspapers, finance books from second-hand stores, and watched videos on an old mobile phone about saving, investing, and business. He believed that one day he could give his daughter a better life. But there was one day, one specific day, that changed his entire journey. It was a hot afternoon, 10 years ago. The bank was busier than usual. A senior officer from the main city branch had come for inspection. Everyone was on edge, trying to impress the visitor. Farooq, as always, kept out of the way. He cleaned the corners and smiled politely. During lunch break, Farooq quietly walked into the staff pantry to drink water. That's when he heard it. "Did you see that cleaner again?" One officer laughed. "Always carrying that notebook. As if he's planning a business empire." Laughter filled the room. He should focus on cleaning windows, not dreaming of money. Farooq froze. His hands tightened around the bottle. His notebook, his treasure, was tucked in his pocket. He turned to leave quietly, not wanting to cause trouble. But just as he reached the door, the senior officer from the city entered the pantry. He was tall, well-dressed, and serious-looking. Everyone went quiet. The officer's eyes scanned the room and landed on Farooq. "You," he said. "Come here." Farooq hesitated, unsure what he had done. "What's in your pocket?" the officer asked. Farooq slowly took out his small notebook. The officer opened it and flipped through the pages. Inside were charts, savings plans, and handwritten notes about fixed deposits, mutual funds, and stock growth. The officer raised an eyebrow. "Did you write this?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Farooq said softly. The officer studied him for a moment, then asked something no one else ever had. "Why?" Farooq looked down and said, "For my daughter, sir. I want to teach her that no job is small, but no dream is too big." The officer didn't laugh. He didn't mock him. Instead, he closed the notebook and handed it back. "You're smarter than some of the staff here," he said. "Don't stop learning." Then he turned to the others in the room and said, "You should all be ashamed. This man is building something, quietly, humbly, while you sit here laughing at him." The room went silent. Farooq said nothing. He just nodded and left the room. That was the day things changed. It wasn't just the officer's words. It was the respect in his eyes. For the first time, someone saw Farooq as more than a cleaner. That same week, Farooq visited a local investor's office. Using the little savings he had, he opened a small investment account. Every month after that, he added a little more. Sometimes just Rs 50, sometimes Rs 200. Over the years, the account grew slowly. Farooq never told anyone, not even Anaya, how much was in it. He wanted her to stay grounded. He wanted her to learn value, not just wealth. But at night, After she fell asleep, he would stare at the notebook and whisper, "One day, Anaya, this will be yours." Then came the day of his illness. Farouk was getting weaker. He tried to hide it, but Anaya noticed. "Baba, you look tired," she would say. "I'm just old," he'd smile. "Old, not done." He continued working as long as he could, but when the doctor said it was late-stage cancer, Farouk knew he had to prepare. He wrote 2 letters, one for the bank manager, one for Anaya. He put them in her small school bag one morning and said, "When I'm gone, go to the bank. Trust me." And now, years later, Anaya had done just that. Back in the present, Mr. Ramesh sat in his office, still thinking about the story he had just heard. He looked at the photo they had placed on the bank's wall. A janitor who taught them all the lesson they'd never forget. Outside, Anaya stood quietly, holding the notebook in her hand. She ran her fingers over the cover. It still smelled faintly of her father's cologne. Suddenly, a customer walked in. An old lady who had seen the photo of Farouk near the entrance. "Was he your father?" she asked Anaya kindly. Anaya nodded. The woman smiled. Then he raised a lion heart. Anaya smiled back, her eyes bright with pride. The day Anaya left the bank, she didn't go straight home. She sat on a quiet bench near a small park, with the old notebook in her lap. The same notebook her father had carried every day. The same one people once laughed at. She slowly opened it, page by page. There were no fancy words, no computer printouts, just a simple man's dreams written in neat handwriting. Page 1. Money is not power. Knowledge is. Anaya smiled softly. Her father always used to say this when she was a child, but now she understood it deeply. He never had much money, but he studied like his life depended on it, and maybe it did. Page 5. If I can save ours 10, then I can save ours 100. If I can save ours 100, then I can save ours 1,000. Next to that line, there were notes about how compound interest works. Simple calculations, dates and numbers. It showed how small savings had turned into something big over the years. Anaya felt her throat tighten. All those years when they couldn't afford new clothes, when she cried because she didn't get birthday gifts, her father had been saving every single rupee for her future. He didn't spend it. He protected it. Page 12. Anaya's college fund. Start with ours 200/month. Don't stop. Even if I get sick. Even if I lose my job. Keep going. Tears fell on the paper now. He knew he might fall sick. He knew life would test him. But he never let that stop him. Not once. Page 22. One day she will walk into the bank. They may laugh at her bag of coins. Let them laugh. But they will never laugh again once they know the truth. Anaya's heart froze. He had planned everything. Even her entrance into the bank. Even the coins. She remembered him collecting coins over the years. Old ours 1, ours 2, ours 5 coins. Putting them in a plastic jar. She had thought it was just a hobby. But now she realized it was part of the lesson. He knew the world judged people based on appearances, so he created a moment that would test their hearts. Page 35. This notebook is not just for Anaya. It's for the world. If anyone finds it, they should know, you don't need big money to have big dreams. You just need belief. She closed the notebook slowly, holding it close to her chest. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. It was a message from the bank. Scholarship documents ready. Please visit at your convenience. She stared at the screen, then looked up at the sky. "Baba, you did it," she whispered. "You made the world listen." That evening, Anaya sat with her mother in their small home. She told her everything, the scholarship, the money her father had saved, and the offer to honor him at the bank. Her mother cried silently, looking at Farouk's photo on the wall. "He never told me," she whispered. "He wanted it to be a surprise," Anaya replied. He said the best gifts come when you least expect them. Later that night, Anaya pulled out a pen and wrote something new on the last blank page of the notebook. Dear Baba, you were never just a janitor. You were a warrior, a dreamer, a teacher. This notebook will live on, just like your lessons. Love, Anaya. She closed the notebook gently. Then she had an idea. 1 week later, Anaya returned to the bank. This time, she wasn't shy. She walked in with quiet strength. She met Mr. Ramesh, who smiled as she entered. We've prepared the scholarship paperwork, he said. I'll sign it. She nodded. But I have a request. Of course, he said. I want to start a small library section in the bank. Just a shelf, with books about finance, in simple language, for the common people. Mr. Ramesh was surprised. Why? Because my father learned about money on his own, Anaya said. If one man can change his life with a notebook, imagine what 100 could do with books. Mr. Ramesh nodded slowly. We'll do it, and we'll call it the Farooq Corner. Anaya smiled. And one more thing, she added. I want his notebook to be the first book on the shelf. And so it was. A small wooden shelf was placed near the waiting area in the bank. At the top, a sign read, The Farooq Corner, where dreams begin, no matter how small. And right in the center of the shelf, protected in a clear glass frame, sat a notebook. Old, worn, but full of dreams. Customers often stopped to read a few pages. Some cried, some smiled, and some began saving, planning, and dreaming, just like Farooq. A month passed since the bank opened the Farooq Corner. People came and went, but many stopped to read a page from the notebook that now sat in a clear case near the bank's entrance. Some laughed softly at Farooq's honest, simple advice. Others wiped their eyes. But no one laughed the way they used to, not after hearing Anaya's story. Anaya had started college now. With the help of the scholarship and the savings her father left behind, she was studying business. Her goal was not just to be successful, but to help others rise, just like her father once dreamed. One evening, after a long day of classes, Anaya returned home to find her mother holding an envelope. Beta, I found this in an old drawer, her mother said. It's from your father. Anaya's heart skipped a beat. She took the envelope with shaking hands. It was yellowed at the edges, the handwriting neat and careful. On the front, it said, To my Anaya, open when you feel ready. She sat on her bed, took a deep breath, and opened the letter. The letter. My dearest Anaya, if you're reading this, then I'm probably not there to hold your hand, but I'm still with you. Always. I want you to know something. I never felt poor. Not once. Because I had you, and you were the richest gift I could ever have. You remember the notebook. I hope you kept it. That notebook is not just for numbers and savings. It's a map to remind you that even the smallest steps can lead to big places. But there's something I didn't tell you. A final surprise. Behind the photo frame in our room, taped to the back, you'll find a key. That key opens a small locker in the bank, locker number 114. I wanted you to discover it when you were strong enough to carry what's inside, not just with your hands, but with your heart. Always believe in yourself, and if the world doubts you, let them. You just keep walking. I'm proud of you, Anaya, more than you will ever know. Love, your Baba. Anaya stared at the letter for a long time, then slowly stood up and walked to her father's photo on the wall. Behind the frame, just as he had said, was a small key, taped neatly to the back. Her hands trembled slightly as she pulled it free. The next morning, Anaya went to the bank. The staff had come to know her now. They greeted her warmly, with a little respect in their eyes, not because of what she wore, but because of who she had become. She met Mr. Ramesh again. I need to access locker number 114, she said quietly, holding up the key. Mr. Ramesh raised an eyebrow. That locker belonged to your father. We didn't even know it existed. Come with me." They went to the locker room. The lock clicked open. Inside, there was no gold, no jewelry, just a small metal box. Anaya opened it slowly. Inside was a folded document, a small pouch, and a second envelope. She picked up the pouch first. It was full of more old coins, but not just random coins. Each one had a year marked. The year Anaya passed each class from nursery to high school. Her father had saved them as milestones. Then she unfolded the document. It was a certificate of investment, signed and sealed. Years ago, her father had invested in a small education fund. The amount had grown quietly for over a decade, and now it was enough to fund her entire education. Without any loans, without help. Anaya covered her mouth in shock. Then she opened the second envelope. Second letter. Anaya, this is the seed I planted for you. But seeds grow only when they're watered with love, patience, and belief. You must now decide. Do you want to use this money for only your future? Or do you want to help others too? I leave that choice to you. No pressure. Just trust your heart, because I trust it completely. Baba. Tears rolled down her cheeks, not because of the money, but because of the man who had thought of everything. 1 week later, Mr. Ramesh stood in the bank lobby, stunned. Anaya had made a big decision. She kept enough money for her education, but the rest, she donated it to create a new financial help desk inside the bank, a place for poor people to learn about savings, investments, and how to secure their future. It would be run in her father's name. The Farouk Financial Help Desk, for people with big dreams and small pockets. Anaya stood in front of it, giving a small speech. My father was a janitor, she said, but he was more than that. He was a teacher, a visionary, and my hero. If he can learn and grow, so can anyone. This desk is for all those who've been told you can't, because you can. The people in the crowd clapped softly. Some had tears in their eyes. And in that moment, Anaya realized her father hadn't just left her a notebook or a few coins. He had left her a mission. A few months passed, and the bank was no longer just a place for money. It had become a place of hope. Thanks to Anaya, the Farouk Financial Help Desk had started helping people, daily wage workers, small shopkeepers, old pensioners, anyone who walked in with a question and a dream. Every time someone left with a smile, Anaya felt her father smiling too. She often sat by the Farouk corner, watching people read the notebook. Some flipped pages quickly. Some read slowly, word by word. Some took photos of their favorite quotes. It was no longer just her father's notebook. It belonged to everyone now. One day, Mr. Ramesh approached Anaya with a thoughtful look. Anaya, he said, the regional head is visiting next week. He heard about your work. He wants to meet you. Me. Anaya blinked, surprised. Yes, Mr. Ramesh smiled. And there's more. He wants you to speak at the annual bank event. It's a gathering of all senior managers. Would you do it? Anaya felt a wave of nervousness, then strength. Her father had always said, when the world gives you a mic, don't whisper. Speak for those who can't. She nodded. I'll do it. The big day. Anaya stood behind the stage curtain, heart racing. The large conference hall was filled with people in suits, senior bankers, executives, press reporters, big names. But Anaya didn't feel small. She remembered her father cleaning offices like this, sweeping floors while others wore ties. Now she stood not to serve tea, but to change minds. She walked to the podium, took a deep breath, and began. Good morning. My name is Anaya Farouk. You may know me as the girl with the coins. But I'm not here to talk about coins. I'm here to talk about value. My father was a janitor. Every day, he swept floors in this bank. People saw his mop, not his mind. They heard his silence, not his story. But he was the smartest man I ever knew. Because he believed in one thing. Small dreams are not small when they are built with big hearts. He saved every ruby. He read books after long shifts. He learned how money works, so one day I wouldn't have to struggle the way he did. And when he died, he left me a notebook. Not with instructions, but with inspiration. That notebook changed my life. And today, I'm using his lessons to help others. We created a help desk for people like him. People who don't wear suits. People who don't have fancy words. But people who deserve to be heard. Because money doesn't only belong to the rich. Knowledge should be free. And dignity, that's not for sale. Thank you. The room went silent. Then came the applause. Loud, long. Some even stood up. Anaya looked around, feeling overwhelmed. Not because she had spoken well, but because she had spoken truth. And people had listened. 1 week later, Anaya was called again to the bank. But this time, it wasn't for help desk work. Mr. Ramesh met her with a proud smile. "You're being offered an internship at the bank headquarters," he said. "It's part of a leadership program. Only a few are chosen." Anaya's eyes widened. "But I haven't even finished college." "They don't care," he said. "They've seen your work, your ideas, your heart." Later that evening, Anaya sat at home, quietly looking at her father's photo. She held the notebook in her lap. "I did it, Baba," she whispered. "But not alone. You were with me, every step." Then she opened a new page. For the first time, she began writing. "Dear future reader, if you're holding this book, it means you believe in something bigger than yourself. Never let anyone laugh at your small beginning. Because one small act of courage can echo for generations." She closed the notebook. The next day, she placed it back at the Farouk corner, but this time, with her new entry. People noticed. The notebook was growing, alive, even. It now had 2 voices. 1 year later, the story of Farouk and Anaya spread beyond their city. News channels aired their journey. A documentary was made. The Janitor's Legacy. Other banks started help desks. Students began using the Farouk method to save. And the coins. They became a symbol that even small savings and small people can build big change.